I'm gonna gush poetic about Aaron Rodgers just because you said that.
You know what? And that'll be the last time we have a podcast, sir. I promise you that much.
Oh, well, we'll have too much fun. Hello, everybody. My name is Ben Super. I am the host of the Flock Squawk podcast over on YouTube, and I am here with my friend Josh Gators.
How's it going, everybody?
How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. How you been?
Dude, I've been great. Gators is a buddy of mine for out here where I live, and we've always been wanting to do a podcast just in general, and it's finally happened. Like, we finally have
Yes,
all the
sir.
equipment, we have the stuff that we need. We're ready to go, and what better place to start than the 2021 NFL playoffs, man? We made it, dude. 18 weeks of watching
We are finally here.
shitty football, watching some good football at times, but as a Bears
Yes,
fan
sir.
and as a Ravens fan, we mostly watch shitty football this year, right?
You know, I just told Steve, for the fans and the viewers, he's a good colleague of Ben and I. I just told him how happy and ecstatic I was that Ryan Pace was finally fired. We lost Nagy. And I don't think that it was Nagy's problem. I don't think it was Nagy's issue, but of course you can't not have a successful team and expect to stay long in the NFL, especially these days. Yeah, it's die-hard football, man. I'm a Bears fan through and through, and I'll continue to stand by my team.
You know, the best part is those two guys seem to be like the big issue, right? Now that they got Ryan Pace and they got Matt Nagy out of there. You got to be stoked, dude.
Well, first and foremost, I say it's not Nagy's issue because he is a prophet of Andy Reid. And of course, we know the success that Andy Reid has had in Kansas City before Patrick Mahomes. So with that being said, I can't put all of the blame on his shoulders, but of course, he is the head coach. And with that comes the responsibilities of head coach, whether that's play calling or alignment of defense and offense, and how much of a say he has in that. Yeah, you can't expect to be mediocre, if not even, and expect to stay long in the NFL, as I stated. So, unfortunately, we lost Nagy, from my opinion, my standpoint. But we have a lot of fans in our base that don't think that he was the coach to be anyway. So, I think we get an opportunity to start fresh, and I really like the way that Justin Fields is slated to perform in this next season. So, if he can stay healthy, because he's had a lot of injuries closer to the end of the season, but if he can stay healthy, I think that will be good. I think that will be solid.
Can I give you a candidate that would be perfect for the Bears? I think.
Please, please.
Brian Flores.
I think so too.
Released from the Dolphins, and like, he didn't deserve to get released. I didn't think. I was shocked when I heard that he got fired, and I'm like, it makes so much sense for him to coach in Chicago. Defensive-minded coach. That would be awesome, and I think it would be a good opportunity for him. I think the Bears are one of those organizations where here recently it's been, you guys' rep has taken a bit of a hit, but it's one of the premier organizations in the NFL.
Absolutely.
So, good job for him, I would think.
And to second that, I think that out of all of the coaches that have lost their jobs this season, he would be the number one candidate for the Bears in terms of their play style, their history, and how he has it brought the Dolphins back to relevancy as well. I like Flores. Hopefully we get him, if not somebody that can help us get some wins on the board. So,
for all the listeners out there, I'm trying to convince Josh to do a Bears podcast where I'm just going to be the side host and he can pose and throw questions at me. I think that would
be really fun,
because the one thing you can say about Flock Squawk is it's really great that most of them are fans of the team, right, of the Baltimore Ravens, but there's also those people who are not, and they're like, yeah, randomly, like, I have a nugget of information that I sometimes deal out when I talk football about the Ravens. People are like, how the fuck did you know that? Like, why would you know that? Like, why are you following them like that?
Hardcore fans is these two right here.
Absolutely, yeah. So let's get into it, man. It's the
fucking
playoffs. So the first game we've got, it's going to be 4 o'clock on Saturday football.
Sure.
Thank goodness college is over. Good for Georgia, by the way.
Go Georgia, go Dogs.
Yeah, shout out to them. Raiders and Bengals.
I love this matchup.
So everyone I talk to, Josh, is like, oh, the Bengals, like, they're going to easily win this game. Like, what are you talking about? Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, that works.
I like the redemption story for the Raiders. They, of course, the situation they had with the wide receiver Henry Rugg, losing their coach not even halfway through the season. I think that the little momentum that they did have going into the end of the season will carry them through, but I don't know that they have the manpower. I don't put all of my cards on Derek Carr, not yet. Still think he's the middle of the line quarterback in terms of all 32 teams. I think he's right at that average, if not slightly above. But I can't see them taking this win in Cincinnati against a very, very, very hot Joe Burrow and a very, very, very hot Jamar Chase. I think, like you said, we have to have a huge focus on running the ball, especially now that we're in January, because we cannot rely on the air game. But I do like the Bengals. I like that matchup. The reason it's tough is because the Raiders are that team that, of course, 4-0 in December, and who knows what team is going to show up, So I like the Bengals, though. I like the Bengals in terms of momentum.
I think the same thing of the Bengals. This is a team that, which team am I getting? Am I getting the team that hung in there with the Chiefs and won, or am I getting the team that got beat by the Jets earlier in the season?
Exactly. Exactly.
The Bengals, they've had this weird thing, and I watch them because I'm a Ravens fan and I have to twice a year at least. I watch a team that I thought was better. They reloaded their defense. They got a bunch of free agents in there, and they've obviously paid off in dividends. I mean, they got a pass rush when they didn't.
For sure.
Eli Apple played okay for them. They got a guy from the Cowboys, Awuzie. I mean, he's
Awuzie
on defense. I mean,
absolutely.
The Bengals really surprised me this year, but they've also had moments where you're like, what the fuck just happened? Real quick, the game where Joe Burrow threw all over the Ravens.
Oh, yeah.
The Ravens had no one in their secondary that was starting. Marcus Peters was out. Marlon Humphrey was out. Chuck Clark was just coming back off of COVID. Deshaun Elliott was injured at that point. He was thrown to a college secondary, and everyone was like, oh, Joe Burrow is second coming. Joe Burrow is still, it's going to be his first playoff game ever. The atmosphere is going to be different. It'll be in Cincinnati. But
a lot of big factors.
I don't know, man. I have the score 30-28 Raiders. Here's another note. Their kicker, Evan McPherson,
injured.
Dealing with a groin injury right now.
In the wintertime, in Cincinnati, outdoor football. Not easy.
And the last time they played, they played earlier this season, right? So they played in week 11. Cincinnati blew them out 32-13, but their kicker was responsible for 4 field goals. That's 12 points.
A lot of points.
Took that off the board from their previous game. If Evan McPherson is hurt and he can't go, they're going to have a backup kicker in the middle of January when you need a reliable kicker. The double doink, right? You need a reliable kicker to get you through in the playoffs. I think the Bengals win? Probably. But if I'm on FanDuel or I'm on Sportsbook, I mean, what are the odds right now for them? Aren't they? I think they were minus 5.5 the last time that I looked.
Oh, wow.
So it would be plus 5.5 for the Raiders. And I'm like, dang, if I'm a gambling man, I'm not sold on the Bengals in the playoffs.
It's one of those games that are going to be really exciting to watch. I'll tell you that much.
So do you think the Bengals are going to win? Probably.
I'm taking the Bengals. I'm taking the Bengals only because I got money on the line.
I'm taking the Raiders. You know what we're going to do? We're going to add up our total, record total, and we're going to compare them. And that's how we're going to determine who wins this podcast, I guess. I don't know. Anything else on the Bengals and the Raiders?
Not that I can think of. Outside of the factor of, like I said, losing the head coach in the middle of the season, I don't know how much that's going to affect them in terms of postseason. I really think Bisaccia is not necessarily the second coming, but I think he'll be able to at least lead them to their next coach if that is in the line for them. I don't know if he's going to be interim for how long or if he's going to be the head coach, but I think he has what it takes to get them pretty far.
Do you think if he does well in this playoff push, you think he keeps his job?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially with where the front office, I can't imagine having to search for another coach after your wide receiver is involved in such a horrific accident and you lose your head coach due to political BS. I think that if he is successful in this game specifically, it's a lock for him, at least having a job for the next couple of years, for sure.
That, and they lost the other wide receiver too, right? There's another wide receiver.
Oh my goodness, I forgot about that.
And it's like, holy snap. I mean, I don't know, but it'll be in Cincinnati, so they can't go out the night before. Joe Burrow said Cincinnati was boring, and he's from Ohio, so I'll take his word for it. New England at Buffalo,
yes, sir.
round 3.
Now, this one really excites me. We had a lot of talk around the the courthouse here, the office, if you will, about this game, and even more so than the Raiders Bengals, I think it not being a lock. You have a very very consistent Mac Jones in terms of quarterback, but you also have a very very solid team in Buffalo, and you're in Buffalo. So not only that, but the Bill Belichick factor. You cannot factor out Bill Belichick, especially in the postseason. So I can't. Let's get into it, man, because I don't have a pick for this one yet. I really don't.
So New England is 1-3 in their past 4 games. They are the AFC version of the Arizona Cardinals in the NFC, right? Where
falling off later on.
They're falling off. You don't want to be falling off going into the playoffs, right?
Not at all.
So that concerns me. The Bills have beaten up on some pretty lousy teams coming down the stretch. They beat the Panthers, the Falcons, the Jets, and it's like, okay, like you kind of got an easier end of the road. It certainly wasn't
For sure.
an AFC North schedule. I mean, that was just a murderer's row for 7 straight
Absolutely.
weeks, right? So
Death row, indeed.
I guess we'll look at their previous matchups. So the first Patriots game, I'm not even going to talk about, dude, because that was the win game. Do you remember that? Where the score was like 14-10, and they ran. Mac Jones threw the ball like 3 times. We can't evaluate that game, can we?
When I go back and I watch SportsCenter, I watch the highlights of that game, and I hear the guys talking about, oh, Mac Jones went off, and I'm like, he handed the ball off 3 times. Not sure if that's going off, but of course, his numbers are going to reflect in terms of success. So, like I said, you cannot factor out. My biggest factor is Bill Belichick. So, when you look at the success that the Patriots have had in the postseason, in the history of the Patriots, it's hard to say that they're out of it. But like you said, you look at the first game that they played. What happened? What happened to the Patriots there? You know,
I just think that there was just such abnormal conditions. It's hard to like rate that game and be like, okay, we saw a fair shake with those teams. I think the second matchup is a little bit better. Buffalo dog walked them 33-21 in Foxborough. So they went into the Patriots and whooped the ever-loving shit out of them. Josh Allen, he threw for 3 touchdowns. He was amazing. Mac Jones stunk.
Yes, he did.
Damian Harris, who's emerged as a real force for the Patriots, he gives me a little bit of optimism in this game. If they can get the ground game running, it's supposed to be 5 degrees in Orchard Park when this game gets played.
Frigid.
You really want Mac Jones, your rookie quarterback, out there slinging it and risking getting hit in 5-degree weather, or would you rather have Damian Harris pound the rock, maintain some time, make it so that your offense stays on the field longer, so Josh Allen's ass sits?
Absolutely.
And maybe that's a formula for New England to win. There is a formula for them to win, right?
I absolutely like it. I think, like you said, there's going to be a heavy emphasis, or there has to be a heavy emphasis on the running the ball. We're not looking at Patrick Mahomes here. We're not looking at Deshaun Watson. We're looking at a Mac Jones coming out of Alabama, where, of course, Alabama has the pedigree, but first time in the postseason, the signs don't line up for him being successful throwing the ball. So, like you said, yeah, there has to be a heavy emphasis in carrying the team for Harris.
And I like Mac Jones, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's a good quarterback. I just don't think this is the game for him. I just don't think it's going to be. And I guess with the Bills, another thing that kind of points you into New England, too, is like the Bills' run game is non-existent. Josh Allen has 763 rush yards this season.
Absolutely ridiculous.
Do you really want I get it, he's an oak tree, right? But, like, do you really want that guy to get injured because he's taking a tackle on a 5-yard gain in a playoff push? Like,
yeah, let's not necessarily put him as a sacrificial lamb. You know, let's establish our game plan early on if possible, and then rely on that later. But of course, that is always going to be the let's think about that. Let's do that, and you got a lot of factors, like I said, being outdoors being one of them. They're going to have to run the ball. The Patriots are going to have to run the ball if they want any kind of success. Like you said, the factor of keeping the offense off the field for Josh Allen being able to play. Yeah, you got to have to run the ball for sure.
Dang, it almost makes me want to change my pick. Because also,
like I said, it's still not a lock for me. It's still not a lock for me. And I look over your notes here and I see COVID, and I keep forgetting about that. Are we going to be healthy for these games?
For every single matchup. I mean, didn't we hear today that Cooper Kupp, he went to an NBA game and he wasn't
exactly
COVID protocols? What's going to be the fallout for that? We have no idea.
Exactly.
Will he be available for the playoffs? I don't know. So that could be said for every team, but
absolutely.
I don't know. I mean, there's just been a lot of mental mistakes with the Patriots down the stretch, and I don't think they're gelling right now on offense, and I think it's really really going to hurt them if they want to beat Buffalo in their own house. And,
Exactly.
Buffalo made the AFC Championship game last year. They've got something to prove.
Of course.
I got 24-20, and I'm going with Buffalo. I'm sticking with it.
Buffalo. Okay. All right. And I think it's easy. I point out, I think it's easy to say, you look at these teams on paper, you don't have Tom Brady, you don't have a real solid defense, whether or not they can stay healthy or not in New England. Easy to say it's going to be a blowout for Buffalo with the team that they have versus the team that New England has on paper. But of course, you got a lot of factors. The biggest factor for me being Mac Jones' first playoff game, going into Buffalo. Not necessarily super hostile fan base, but not something that he's used to. I think that's going to rattle him. I think Buffalo wins. I like the 24-20 because it's easy, and you already picked it for me, but I think it'll be similar. I think it'll be somewhere along the lines of 24-20.
It's a good bet. I mean, 24-20, it would assume that, both teams are getting touchdowns. They're kicking field goals in some cases. It's a good back and forth game, I think. I just this is a scenario where what if Mac Jones throws like 3 interceptions?
Exactly.
Or what if there's a scenario where he throws 3 touchdowns? He's fucking
exactly. Amazing. Absolutely. Very, very exciting matchup that I look forward to watching from first to fourth. So I like Buffalo though. I'm picking Buffalo.
Let's go to the game that pisses me off the most. Pittsburgh is playing at Kansas City. This game pisses me off. He was supposed to die. It's very reminiscent of his career, right? Like Ben Roethlisberger. You go to sack him, and there'd be 3 guys hanging all over him. And somehow this big motherfucker would just like throw a ball and make a completion 12 yards down the field. It's kind of like he's avoiding the sack right here. He's got a playoff game where he can go into Arrowhead and try and outgun Patrick Mahomes. I hate him. He's a quarterback that I respect immensely. He's in my division. He's giving me a hard time for a lot of years.
Many years.
It's just funny he's in a playoff game.
And just like you said in your notes, just when we thought he was done, just when we thought Big Ben was retired.
He's like Jason, it's great. It's kind of funny. And then his press conference is hilarious, right? He was like, well, we don't really have a shot to beat these guys, so we should just go out there and have fun. And it's like, wow, all right, man.
I love Najee Harris's response. I won't go into that on the video here, but for those that were familiar with what happened, as Ben stated, a very, very contentious comment that probably should not have been made on air. You want to go into this postseason, you want to go into the playoffs with a mindset of we got to do anything we can to win, not necessarily expecting roll over and die from Ben Roethlisberger. But then, of course, once again, we've looked at his history. We looked at the gradual decline that he's had in the last couple of years. And I think he's right. I think he's honest about where his skill set is now. I think he's honest about where his drive is. I don't think that he's going into this game as Big Ben. I think he's going into this game as Ben Roethlisberger. And I think that changes a lot of things for the Steelers and their chances.
And it doesn't look good because Najee Harris may have suffered a little bit of an injury in the Ravens game. I don't know if that's going to
forgot about that.
I don't think it will. I think he's been pretty protective of the ball all season. But it's just they're going up against the juggernaut Chiefs again, right? Like the Chiefs are right back to where they were. Patrick Mahomes was getting too cute there in the middle of the season. And then he stopped getting cute because someone probably yelled at him and said, hey, Patrick, how about we just make some completions and get some touchdowns?
How about we play like we normally play?
Right. And so the defense got better for sure. Kansas City's all the way back. I think the spread for this game is minus 12.5, and I think that's a little unreasonable. I think the Steelers do cover. Like, Ben Roethlisberger can say that stuff all he wants, but he knows that when he goes out there, I mean, it's his last game again. What if he wins? Then we got to talk about if Ben Roethlisberger's going on a fucking Super Bowl run. Beat the Ravens twice. I mean, what can I say? My team's not in the playoffs. Like, I guess good for him for sneaking in. But everything in this game points to the Chiefs winning, right? Like, the last time they played, it was 2 weeks ago, and Kansas City blew them out 36-10.
Exactly.
Mahomes he threw 3 touchdown passes, 258 yards. Najee Harris ran for almost 100, but at one point in this game, it was 30-0. The Chiefs.
Wow.
I can't imagine the situation got much better 2 weeks later. Do you?
No, I don't. And like you said, once again, it's one of those things where You're looking at the team on paper, you're looking at the team on the field. With the Chiefs, they line up. With the Steelers, not so much. And then we've already had the massive blowout that they've had this season already. So, yeah, I like the Chiefs. I really do. Very comfortable ground for Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. They're used to this. They're comfortable, and I think they are hitting their stride because they're not used to being in the wild card. They're used to getting that first round bye, and they're used to being, hey, let's go ahead and get the second win, and we're in the Super Bowl. So, um, yeah, I think we're in for another blowout. Unfortunately, I think we're in for a massive, massive win for the Chiefs, which is, not to be unexpected. So
you don't think the Steelers will cover then? The spread is minus 12.5. That's a lot of points.
That's a lot of points. I don't. I'm looking at the line now. The spread 12.5 over under 46. See, if that happens, it'll happen in the fourth quarter for sure. Knowing the Steelers, but see, I don't think Patrick is going to let that happen because he comes alive in the halftime. So I don't know. I don't know. That's a hard bet game for me. I like the Chiefs, of course, obviously, but do they cover the spread 12.5? That's a good question. Very good question.
Keep in mind, by the way, like Tyreek Hill might be good to go for Sunday. He's dealing with
Of course.
They say that he's going to be good to go. The same
Absolutely.
can be said for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think his shoulder injury is really bothering him, and if they don't have him in the ground game, I don't think it affects them too much. But Damian Williams is banged up too. I mean, the Chiefs are dealing with a lot of injuries, and surprisingly, the Steelers not so much. I mean, they'll have TJ Watt on the field. They'll be able to generate some sort of pass rush. I mean, you got to think the Chiefs' offensive line. They've got 4 new guys on their O line. I have 28-17 Chiefs, so the Steelers in this case would cover. And I think that's reasonable. They lose by 11 points. Ben Roethlisberger rides off into the sunset. You can say I took him to the playoffs.
For sure. He's going to be – it's a lock for him to be in Canton. We already know that. The wonderful history he had, the Super Bowl win, of course, against the Cardinals in 12. Yeah, he's a lock.
Was it wonderful? Wasn't wonderful for me as a Ravens fan. I fucking hated it.
I have to forget you're a Ravens fan first, which makes sense. I get it. I hate Aaron Rodgers just as much.
I'm gonna gush poetic about Aaron Rodgers just because you said that.
You know what? And that'll be the last time we have a podcast, sir. I promise you that much.
No, we'll have too much fun. No,
oh man.
Okay, we're pretty much done with that one, right? We can go on.
Sure. Yeah, I wanted to hit on the fact that, like you said, if TJ Watt is healthy, I think that is more of a factor for the Steelers staying in this game than if Clyde Edwards-Helaire is not. I think that the Chiefs still pull it off with Tyreek Hill. Of course, they're gonna have to put it on his chest, on his shoulders, but he's very more than capable, I should say. But he's, like you said, got to be healthy. So.
And they have McCole Hardman still, right? I mean,
exactly.
It's not like this team is Travis Kelce is still there. You're still expecting the Chiefs to score a touchdown a quarter, right? I mean,
at least.
Yeah, that doesn't seem unreasonable to me. Give them 15 minutes. Could they get 7 points in a quarter? Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely.
So that's where I'm at with that. Okay. Philadelphia travels to Tampa Bay to take on 46-year-old Tom Brady. And
the legend.
Beleaguered Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they've had a very strange month. I think the Eagles are the good bad team this year.
Okay.
They've gone 0-6 against playoff teams this year, Josh. They have not beaten a playoff team. What do you say to that?
It's really confounding for me because it's like you don't have necessarily the quarterback conundrum that Chicago has had or even Miami, but is Jalen Hurts going to be able to show up? And I think that's the biggest question for Philadelphia is I don't like his chances, especially against a stacked Tampa Bay. Then again, like you said, very, very weird last couple of games for Tampa Bay and whether or not they'll be able to really stamp home that win against what I think is a middle-of-the-line Philadelphia team at that. So I think for Philly is going to be the key is whether or not Jalen Hurts can stay hot or get hot and stay hot.
The fact that Tom Brady leads the league in passing yards and touchdowns at 46 years old, that's impossible. I'm watching Man in the Arena on ESPN Plus.
Yes, sir.
I'll say this, okay? So it's a little because it's Tom Brady's point of view. Just understand,
of course,
this is Tom Brady's point of view, right? Like, so take that for what it's worth when you watch that documentary. But it's very well done and it's really good. And he's got everybody in on it. It's awesome. And he's still fucking doing it. Like,
still doing
he is still throwing.
Still doing
just what a fucking beast, dude.
absolute animal. And one of my favorite quarterbacks to not only watch play the game, but if you seriously watch him, you can see literally him thinking about every play and knowing where he wants to go, but whether or not it's going to work. And you can see his IQ on the field. I love watching Tom play. It's amazing to see what he's done past 40 and then even more so closer to 50 now and still in the National Football League. I think that's saying a lot. People take that for granted. This is the top of the top of the top. We don't have another league for football, but it's not like anybody else in the world is competing with America when it comes to this sport. So to be the top of your game, and this is the top league at 46, that's saying a lot.
How about this, too? The Jets game. Antonio Brown makes this huge stink. He fucking leaves at the end of the game. They're on the 7-yard line when they get the ball back. And Tom Brady takes Cyril Grayson, a guy no one's fucking heard of.
No.
No one's fucking heard of this guy.
No.
Him and drives him, uses him to drive all the way down and get a game-winning touchdown to beat the Jets. He's still that fucking guy, dude. Last time these two met, they have met during the season.
For sure.
The Bucs won 28-22. That was the game that they lost Richard Sherman. And
that's right.
Eagles
That's right.
Actually, at one point, were down 28-7. I mean, they started climbing back. Brady threw 2 touchdowns. Fournette ran for 2. I don't think Fournette is coming back, right? Fournette's out for the season.
Looks like he is officially done for the rest of the season. Absolutely.
Yeah, so they're not going to have him in the lineup. And then Godwin's out. He's done for the rest of the season with an ACL tear. So they're coming in kind of it's so weird, but with no other quarterback, do you look at that roster, and if you replaced him with another quarterback, maybe there's a couple guys that you could, but everyone's always like, well, it's Tom Brady, so they're probably going to win anyway.
I think that's a wonderful point. Like you said, you automatically assume that Tom Brady's going to be in the Super Bowl every year because he leaves the dynasty in New England and goes to a new team in Southern Florida and with a new coach, mind you, and a whole new roster and does it in the first year. There's a lot, once again, to be said about the skill set that takes, the drive and the mentality that you approach the game with. But once again, you're missing 2 out of your 3 wide receivers. You don't have Brown, you don't have Godwin, and you're going to have to rely on your tight end and Mike Evans to be able to really throw that ball. I still think Tampa Bay wins, but I think that the Eagles are going to pounce on the fact that they know that they don't have much more than Mike Evans to throw to. So, very good matchup.
The Bucs are second in points for this year and 5th in points against. So, amazing offense and amazing defense. The weather is going to be 67 degrees. It's going to be a
balmy 67.
I mean, it's too much for me. I got $31.20. It's Tom Brady in the wild card. He's at home against an NFC team that has gone 0-6 against playoff teams this year. Is there any reason why we should buck a trend? I mean, I know nothing is ever 100%, right? But I think the Eagles are just happy to be there.
They have nothing to lose. They made it into the wild card, and they're playing up against a team that is slated to win the Super Bowl yet again. So I'm not sure how the Philadelphia Eagles show up, but I have a feeling that they're gonna come to play as much as they can at least.
Okay, so I had the Bucs winning. What do you got?
I'm gonna go Bucs. I want to say 27-14. The Eagles, absolutely.
Okay, next game, San Francisco at Dallas.
Oof.
This is a bad matchup for Dallas. I love that Jimmy G played well through his thumb injury. I think Jimmy G and Dak Prescott are very similar this year. Dak Prescott is in fuck you mode because he got paid and he wants to prove to people he's worth the money. Jimmy G, everyone talks shit about, even though all he does is win games. Lost the fucking Super Bowl. How many quarterbacks actually go to the Super Bowl? So it's a prove it game for him. Like, if he wins this game, maybe he sticks around in San Francisco as the starter and Trey Lance warms the bench a little bit more.
Let me just say this. I like Dak Prescott a lot. I watched him in Mississippi State. I'm a big fan of him, and I'm happy he's healthy. I almost caught myself rooting for the Dallas Cowboys, and if you know me, that does not happen. The mode that Dak Prescott is in terms of, like you said, getting paid and not necessarily getting paid and just, falling back because I'm good with the check. But now I want to prove to the haters and the naysayers that I can really ball.
They didn't play each other this year, so it's kind of hard. That's another reason why I don't like it for Dallas. There's no familiarity. And you know how Dallas does in the playoffs, man. They
Absolutely.
are constant, perennial playoff disappointment. And I know this Cowboys team has looked different. I mean, they really have. Micah Parsons is for real. They drafted a dude at linebacker. Trayvon Diggs has been outstanding. But with Dallas, we know how they get in the playoffs. Like, and this isn't a team. A team up with Deebo Samuel and George Kittle and a good run game. It's not a team I'd want to run into in the first round. Would you?
When it comes to that, yeah, I like the way that both of these teams are slated. Both of these quarterbacks more so are slated to perform against each other. However, like you said, on the note of the Cowboys in the playoffs, we know how they are. It takes me back to the 13 game with the Packers, and it's like you had a chance then, and you were in the playoffs then, and we saw what happened. So we're back now with a different setup. We got a new quarterback, we got a new running back. I think that this is the chance for the Cowboys that they really need, and I think they'll take it. I really think that they're going to beat the 49ers. But then again, who's going to show up for the team of Dallas? So be good on paper. It's just like you said, it's a really, really weird game for Dallas, but I think that they are able to pull it off at home.
You would never ever catch me rooting for Dallas ever.
Not necessarily Dallas, just Dak.
I will say this season has felt different for them. They feel like a different team. They feel like their run game is catching on. Zeke's had some pretty good games. Tony Pollard has always been pretty awesome for them. I don't know. They played in the NFC East, man. I mean, they played against the Giants twice.
It's a cheat code. Yeah, it's a cheat code. Are you a strong team? How strong are you really?
Meanwhile, the 49ers had to cut their fucking teeth on the Cardinals, the Rams, the Seahawks are. I think they're always tough in the NFC West. I know they had a down year this year, but like, I don't look at that game as necessarily easy for the 49ers either. So
not at all.
I don't know. They started the season 2-4. The 49ers. They've gone 8-3 since. Jimmy G's been efficient. Ayuk has been good. I like this team a lot. If I had to pick an upset in the NFC, I think this is it. You said you were going to go with Dallas.
You mentioned Ayuk and you mentioned Samuel, and I like Ayuk, but I think that for the 49ers specifically in this game this season, Samuels will be the X factor for the way it goes. I think that if Samuels is able to connect with Jimmy G, then they're going to have a very good game, and that will change my pick. But Dak at home, like you said, they're getting hot. They're showing a different team. Ezekiel's starting to run. Pollard has always been solid. I still like Dallas at Dallas.
CD Lamb. You're not wrong if you pick Dallas. I just like that. I like if I'm going to pick an upset, I think that's the one I'm picking.
CD Lamb, Cooper, and it's nasty, bro. If they can get connected and they can stay hot, they're going to blow them out.
The spread it's +3 for San Francisco. See, if you're gambling, man, just take the 3. They win by a field goal. I mean, I don't know. They can hang around with Dallas and maybe make something happen. If I'm a gambling guy, I'm picking the 49ers for that game. Okay, good. You can either make fun of me or I'm going to make fun of you. One of the ways. Either way.
That'll be the X game right there. I like that pick up.
All right, so then that leads us with our last game.
Arizona and Los Angeles.
J.J. Watt might play, but they're not entirely sure he's going to go. He might be a game-time decision. They lost home field advantage. They were the number 1 seed for a while going into this later half of the season. The Cardinals were the number 1 overall team in the NFL. Do you remember that?
Absolutely. They're undefeated at one point. And like I said, losing that momentum, losing that steam, I really think hurts you against a team like the Rams, especially because you have the defense that they have in Ramsey and Donald. Is just, are you going to be able to get hot and stay hot? I've always said that I like Kyler. I've always said that his height is going to be an issue. I'm seeing a lot of more post PA rollouts. I'm seeing a lot of dink and dunks, and it's like, if you can prove that you can win that way, I don't think you should have to win that way, but if you can prove that you can win that way, you should be able to beat teams in the NFC West like the Rams, because the Rams are very, very, they fluctuate a lot for me. It's what Matt Stafford are you going to get? Cooper Kupp going out, stuff like that. I think the Arizona Cardinals can really slide in and win. Then again, you're in LA. This is one of my favorite matchups for the postseason. I will say that.
This is a must-win game for Matt Stafford.
Absolutely.
He needs to win this game. He spent decades not decades, he spent the good portion of a decade and a half being a soldier for Detroit, and there were questions about him being the problem. He goes to LA, good enough record to get to the playoffs, but the team is loaded with talent. Is that really an indictment on Matt Stafford? I would say it is, because Cooper Kupp, I don't know if you noticed, almost caught 2,000 fucking receiving yards this year. And had
absolutely nuts.
Touchdowns. Are you kidding
absolutely
me?
Nuts. Absolutely
nuts.
nuts.
Oh my God, that is unreal. He had one of the best wide receiver seasons of all time. this year.
One of the best single-handed seasons of all time.
Matt Stafford is the one slinging in the rock. So there's no excuse for Matt Stafford. He's got the team.
Not at all.
He's got an opponent that's on the downslope. He's not catching them hot. He's catching them cold. He needs to win this game, and he's going to be home. And as long as COVID holds out, if he wins all the way through, he's going to be playing in Los Angeles for the Super Bowl. He'll have a home game. Matt Stafford needs to win this game. This is a big game for Matt Stafford, and I wonder if he's feeling the pressure of that. He seems like a pretty calm cucumber for the most part, but we'll look at him differently if he loses that game.
It's weird. It's weird. Like you said, you look at the decade and some change in Detroit. You look at the connection between him and Megatron and the success that they had in the regular season, but not being able to move that into the postseason. And I think a lot of that is your team. But when you come to LA and you have wide receivers like Odell, you have wide receivers like Jefferson, you have wide receivers like Kupp, 2,000 yards a season, it's very, very hard to say, hey, man, you're not going to be able to say that it was anybody else but you. So, yeah, you have to win this game. You definitely have to win this game if you're Matt Stafford.
May not have Cooper Kupp. He went out.
You may not have Kupp.
Game, and they're wondering if he violated COVID protocols. That might be a bigger story than we're making it out to be, for sure. And then if that's the case, were there other Rams out there not observing COVID protocols? Are they going to get tested more stringently? What's going to happen with that? I mean, COVID could show up in the playoffs and really fuck with these gamblers and their money. I mean, I would be very, very precautious as long as COVID protocols are in place for the NFL to put any sort of bet. Because you have no idea who's going to start to do it.
I hated betting this year because of COVID. You never know who's going to show up. You never know who's going to be last minute. You never know who's going to be out. I absolutely hated betting this year because of COVID. I think he plays. And like you said, it begs to ask the question of responsibility. What are we doing, guys? You know you got a big game coming up. You know you need to be more than likely quarantined, if not isolated. Let's focus in and let's get this win.
It's going to be 62 degrees. It's going to be another fucking beautiful game. I mean, both of these teams are kind of used to nice weather in the sense that one plays in Inglewood and the other team plays in a dome. I think it's 31-17 Rams. I think with D-Hop out, we were talking about their offense, Dinkin and Duncan. I think that's a problem if they're doing that. Kyler's at his best when he's slinging 15, 20 yards down the field, and he doesn't have that target down there.
For them to go from Hopkins almost probably being the number one wide receiver in the league at the beginning of the season to losing the last couple of games, and then, like you said, him not even being in, I think there's a lot of weight on Connor's shoulders in terms of the run game. I think you're right. I think the Rams take this win, unfortunately. I like Kyler, but I don't think that they have the manpower for this win, especially not in LA.
For whatever reason, the Cardinals just can't string it together. You remember last year?
Absolutely.
Sort of thing where they you couldn't bet on the Cardinals because if you did, you weren't sure where your money was going. Them and the Chiefs, because the Chiefs would never cover.
Exactly.
So, that pretty much wraps up the matchup. Is there one that you feel like is a lock? Like for a fact, there's absolutely no way that the other team is going to win this game.
It would definitely be Kansas Pitt, just because of the manpower that Kansas shows up with, for sure.
Yeah, and I was going to say Philly, Tampa Bay. I don't think the Antonio Brown stuff is going to be. I think it might be an addition by subtraction sort of thing.
For sure.
Less of a distraction with him in the locker room. I think regardless of whether you agree with what he's doing or you understand what he's doing. And I think Tom Brady just gets guys dialed in January. It's almost like it perpetuates itself at this point, right? Like when you get to the playoffs and Tom Brady is your quarterback, you automatically elevate your game in a sense because you know that that's what he's looking for. I don't dislike Jalen Hurts going forward. It turns out he might have been better than sticking with fucking Carson Wentz. I call him Arson Wentz because every team he goes on, he burns to the fucking ground. Like,
absolutely.
How in the world did the Colts lose to the Jaguars, Josh?
You look at the Urban Meyer situation. You look at whether or not Trevor Lawrence is really a good fit. They got rid of Gardner Minshew, who I really liked watching him play. I'm not sure if he was going to be the chosen one for Jacksonville, but yeah, it's really, really weird in Florida right now, especially with Jacksonville. Carson Wentz, though, what the hell happened?
He threw fucking picks everywhere. And then I was looking at the game, and it was funny because the Ravens, they needed Indy to lose. But on Flock Squawk, I was counting the Colts. The Colts are really good. They had they had Naheem Hines. They have Jonathan Taylor. They've got Darius Leonard on defense. Rocky Sin at corner. Like, they've got a bunch of dudes that I really fucking like. Carson Wentz, dude. And he threw receptions, and the Jaguars got good field position, and they ended up just blowing the doors off. And then they were completely out of the playoffs when they lost.
Oh, yeah.
And you're just like, they literally, I talk about the Ravens bombing out and losing, 6 games in a row, but the Colts, that's just fucking embarrassing. And you know what the funny thing is? My co-host brought up a stat, and he was like, the past 6 times that the Colts have visited the Jaguars, they've lost every single time.
Wow. Red flags to say the least.
That'd have been a good game to bet on. That would have been a
Hell
great
yeah.
game to bet on. If you had that stat, I was like,
absolutely.
You pulled that out, and I was like, oh, damn, that's an omen at that point. If you lost 6 straight, there's a lot of talk about this week about Andrew Luck and how that was like one of the most underrated events that happened in the NFL in terms of trajectory, right? Like,
absolutely.
The Colts, he retires at 29. He has all these injuries. He's got a fucking degree from Stanford, and he probably was just like, what am I doing? I'm just retiring. And he retires at 29. Good to great quarterback. And everyone's saying that it's like it's one of those things that happened that really could have affected the outcome of some of the playoff games even into this year because Andrew Luck would have been in his prime. But the other side of that argument is, Andrew Luck doesn't retire. He takes a wrong hit somewhere. And then we're talking about Andrew Luck, the paraplegic, who was an amazing quarterback, but because he didn't know when to walk away, he got Joe Theismann or something like that.
And literally could not walk away.
Yeah, right. I mean, you never know. And that seemed to be the way it was. That when he explained why he retired, he was like, "Gosh, I'm going into like my 6th surgery, and I'm not even 30 yet."
I like the move that he made, the step that he took to take care of his body first.
I think he would have stayed in the league and had a really great career. That was obviously like the worst case scenario I could have projected out there. I think he
absolutely
extremely talented. It's just, there's also a scenario where who knows where he could have ended up with his injury.
Exactly.
It's a big question mark that we'll never get the answer to, really. Here's another thing that I wonder. You brought up Gardner Minshew. Baker Mayfield. They don't know whether or not he is going to be there for the Browns. What if the Browns, traded and got Gardner Minshew to start? Aren't those two, the same, but Gardner Minshew's crazier, and he's got a wilder hairdo and get-up, and they've got the same build, they've got the same throws, they've got the same tendencies. Go for Gardner Minshew for the Browns. That would be electric. I would love that.
It's like an evil Doctor Strange kind of situation, I love the move.
Bizzaro Superman or whatever. You get the
exactly.
Gardner Minshew.
I love that move, though. I think Gardner would have a lot of success with the way that the Browns are set up right now. Once again, one of those quarterbacks that we got a chance to watch, experience some success in Jacksonville with the way that Jacksonville was set up. So that's saying a lot in terms of him not being able to start from scratch and have his team, and whether or not he's, the franchise quarterback or not. But I do like him in Cleveland. I do like that move.
That would be hilarious. I would love playing
phenomenal.
Him versus Lamar Jackson would be electric television. Anything else you want to talk about real fast?
No, I think we covered what we intended to cover, which were the predictions for the wild card. I really cannot wait to watch these games, specifically Philly and Tampa Bay and Buffalo and New England. But no, I think we covered everything that I am interested in covering right now. I think we should just get to the football, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's starting on Saturday. I can't wait.
Yes, sir.
It's so much fun hosting this with you, my friend.
Absolutely. Good to see you again, man.
We will see you guys next week. If you're down, we're going to do this same time next week. What do you think?
I'm here for the rest of football. So as long as you'll have me, I'm here.
We'll see you next week. Everybody
yes,
take
sir.
care. Thank you to all the subscribers out there, and we will talk to you next week. Take it easy.